when they had found, when Hilkiah the high priest found the word of God in the rubble of the temple, Josiah was going off 3 generations of Baal worship now. I believe it was somewhere between 100 and 150 years since they had had a king in Judah that really wanted to follow God. You can't blame the tradition of men for how you live your life. God will give each and every one of us the strength, and if we would pray, Lord, let that sin that I know is in my veins because of the sins of my fathers and things like that. Whatever the excuse is, Lord, stop it with me. Do not let it pass on to my children. Don't let it even continue in my life. Help me to conquer it, Lord. You can't blame the traditions of men. Plus, the other thing we have to be careful is even our religious circles, in our fundamental circles, well, we can't do that because we've never done it that way. Again, there are some great feats of technology that can really help to reach out. And for us not to use the tools that God has provided is just silly. Such as even the fact that, we have a video camera. We post the sermons and things onto the internet. We can reach out to our missionaries and, well, we've never used email before. It's okay. Now, I'm not saying that everything about the internet's great. Believe me, there's probably more bad than good. But we have to be careful about, as a church grows and as a church needs to change because of that growth, we got to be careful about being stuck just in tradition for tradition's sake. Then he goes on to say, after the rudiments of the world being the standard or orders, the way that things supposedly were made in this world. Again, supposedly. How can you only believe in one God? Again, all these philosophies, they all go together in one way or another. I would even group in the theory of evolution with this, and supposedly that everybody knows. It's just a fact that we came from monkeys. Everyone knows at one point in time there was this, lightning or bang or whatever it was that life got started, and millions of years later, and all kinds of mutations, and now here we are. Everybody knows that. How can you not know that? What are you? Are you stuck in the Stone Ages or something? I mean, you guys still believe in a literal God that came down and sacrificed his life for you, and that he cares about you, and that he's involved in your life? How ridiculous are you? We have evolved past the point of needing to, all those things that we didn't understand before. We don't need God anymore. That's what the rudiments of the world teach. We know that this is how the world is. Maybe they didn't know it back then. I even read an author the other day who had the audacity to say that the Bible taught that the earth is flat. I said, have you never read the Bible? He equated reading the Bible as going back to the days of Columbus, where people thought that Columbus, by sailing west, would fall off the edge of the earth. Even though the Bible itself teaches that the earth is round. And that it was hung upon nothing out in the middle of space. So years before people knew that the earth was round, before we had telescopes out that were shot into satellites into space, the Bible taught that the earth was not floating on the back of some turtle throughout the universe. The Bible is not necessarily a science textbook. Whenever it does speak about science, it's never been proven false. Unless you go to faulty science. That's why we just have to be careful. We have to beware of these things that will teach us us to be not after Christ. This is again I think sometimes the confusing part is, I think we give Satan too much credit sometimes. I honestly believe that in some ways Satan doesn't need to invent ways to replace Christ. All he has to do is get our focus off of Christ, and our flesh, that natural old man within us, will fill in the blanks. If you don't have Christ, because Christ is the only thing that will fill that hole, you're going to search for something else to fill it. And our natural man is going to point us in every direction except the right direction. That's where we see that we need to have the wisdom that's in Christ. We need to be careful of the wiles of the devil, which is why we need to walk in him. Though I be absent in flesh, yet am I with you in the Spirit, joying and beholding your order and the steadfastness of your faith in Christ. This is what I was talking about earlier, about how he was rejoicing that there were people who were steadfast in Christ. They were the anchors of that church. Even though he couldn't be with them, he was joyful with them in the Spirit. He was joying and beholding their order. Their church was run in a decent manner. It was not chaotic. It was well put together. And again, if you think about this, how Paul many times in his letters was talking about how he yearned or he longed to be with these people. Can you imagine the amazement of Paul if we gave him a computer with like Skype on it? He's like, you don't have to write a letter? I can sit here and I can look at these people? Wow, what sort of miracle is this that you possess? And it's things that we take for granted. We can now know what's going on to people all over the world within a matter of moments. Sharon was just talking about how she was on the phone with her mother halfway across the United States, or 2/3 of the way across the United States. Again, it's just, we have these things. Let's use them. That's why I am so pleased with who God has allowed into my life. Some of these men that have sort of, in a way, taken me under their wing, I guess you can say, and pastors in this area, plus also Ron Hoffman and I talk probably at least once or twice a month now. Just be able to have him encourage me, give me counsel in different ways, and have other pastors that have been in ministry now for years. To have that available, to have men like Paul, I bet the pastors, I bet Timothy would have wished, holy hope, could have even dreamed of having that sort of technology. I can just, whenever I have a problem, I can call up Paul and we can talk for an hour or two. And I don't have to wait weeks, months, maybe even years between letters. No. It's right there. That's in a way why we can't even quite understand completely what it must have been like. Then he goes on to verse 6. As ye have therefore received Christ Jesus the Lord, so walk ye in him. Paul here is assuming that they've received Christ. He's talking to the saints of the church of Colossae. That word received means to accept within yourself. To receive, associate with oneself. Something that it's not a one-time event. Having received Christ, now I live the rest of my life. I constantly am associating with him. We can only begin to imagine what eternity is going to be like, or even what the Garden of Eden was like when it says God came in the cool of the day to meet with Adam and Eve, to walk with them in the garden, in that perfect place. I guess the only part of the hope we can have is that we can do that now by walking with him hope that we have that one day, when we rule and reign with Him for that 1,000 years, you're going to be able to walk through Christ. Literally. So as you have received Him, so walk ye in Him. Walk ye and tread all around. Don't be occupied with it. It's not, again, it's not just a one-time occurrence. It's part of my life. Amos chapter 3 says, can two walk together except they be agreed? Unless we agree on the direction that we're going, we're not going to be walking in the same direction. If Christ is walking this way and I decide to go that way, I'm not walking with Him. I'm not walking in Him. So because as you have received Christ, as you associate with Him, agree with Him in the direction that you walk. And one of the ways that we walk with Him is by faith, not by sight. Key virtue here. Everything worked, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. And then that's when he goes in and says, those things